I get a call a couple of days ago. The guy says, "Hi Matt, it's Gary, can I come see you?" Just to say hello. And I'm like, sure thing. Now Gary's a good friend of mine. He's become a good friend of mine. He happens to be a billionaire and I love catching up with him because every time I'm with him I just learn things. I just ask questions. He must get sick of my questions. So Gary's 70 odd years old, super successful individual. He was going up the coast and made the effort to come in and see me. Didn't have to, but he did. So he said, "I'll be up there on Tuesday, can I pop in?" I said, sure thing. He gets here at 9:20, the appointment was 9:30, I wasn't here yet, I arrived at 9:25. Sitting in the reception, I walk in, he said, "Hi Matt, how you going? Good to see you." We sat down and he goes, "I've got a gift for you." So I want to share with you a few things that came out of today's meeting, because it's not every day you get to spend time with people like that, because everyone wants a bit of them. They're always doing stuff, they're busy, but Gary made the effort to come see me, and it's something that I value a lot. So he gives me this book, he writes a handwritten note in it, says, you know, "Hi Matt, blah blah blah, this book's for you." He says to me, "I heard about this book many years ago, when I was maybe a child, or his dad told him about it, and he said, I wanted to find the book for you because this book should be read by every go-getter." And he said, "You came to my mind and I wanted to find the book for you." So he searched around for it. So it sold 500,000 copies, but he said it's very hard to find now. So he went out of his way to find it. Bring it up to me, give it to me as a gift. Pretty powerful stuff. Like I'm thinking to myself, wow, like he's thought about me, brought this book, blah, blah, blah. I want to share with you a few tips that I got out of today's meeting. I didn't take notes in there because like we catch up as friends, but I wanted to. I was like sitting there just going, all he has is great information, great information, great information. I want to share a couple of those things with you. So first thing is, he said, all wealth takes a long time to build. He said every now and then in life you'll see somebody who comes up with a good idea, like Steve Jobs or whatever, and he said every now and then those people will arrive and they'll create something which scales very quickly. But he said most of the time when people become very wealthy, it's because they've done the small things right over a long period of time, and time is the reason that they become wealthy. And he was talking about how people have these get rich quick, or you know, invest with me, I'll make you this much money and this much return. He said, Matt, steer clear of all of those things. Sure, steady steps are the things that will get you there. And I just thought that was interesting. And I love listening to people who have been there before. They understand it. He's so humble, it's not funny. I'll tell you a little story about when we left today after the meeting, but remember to tell the story, yes? So I've just taken a couple of notes. After I left, I went out and wrote down a few things. But he said, unless you understand the spend less than you earn principle. Now, I've spoken about this at seminars from Gary because I went down and asked him for his advice many years ago. But we were talking about why people find it hard to become wealthy. And it's not so much what you do or the idea that you have, and all that will help, but it's about becoming really good at something and then having these small principles work for you. All young people, I want you to listen to this. The advice from The Billionaire, and Gary and his brother are the largest private investors on the Australian stock market. To give you an idea of their wealth, that's only one part of their wealth. The other part is property. They own many properties everywhere. They even buy planes, I think, and lease them back to Qantas. Like, that's the size of their wealth. Their principles are spend less than you earn, no matter your income. And he said, unless you learn that principle first, there's no point in talking about wealth. And I thought that was really interesting. He could talk about investment strategies and where to invest and how to invest and all this sort of stuff. But when he was a kid, his dad used to pay him a nickel, I think it was, and every week as pocket money that he had to earn. And at the end of every week, unless he could show that he banked a penny out of the nickel, he wouldn't get next week's pocket money. So his dad wouldn't give him the pocket money unless he banked a penny. He said that was the start of him understanding how to build wealth. And then he said compound interest on top of that, which is I'm not going to talk about because I don't understand it very well, but he does. He said nothing good happens quickly. Everything takes time. And he said the grind is very real. the people that you see who achieve great heights of anything, he said, it's because it's a long period of time and the daily grind that's got them there. He said, you have to be kind. He said, when you're kind, people want to work with you. And he said, kindness is memorable and it will impact people and help them form a relationship with you then, but also later, and you never know what's going to come from that. And courteous. He said, kind and courteous. He said, courteous is something that touches people. And he told me a story in that meeting today, and he said that he was doing a deal with the global head of Heinz. So he had something that Heinz were talking to him about, and the global head of Heinz came out to see Gary to play a game of golf. And the big limousine pulled up at his house. This was like 50 years ago. So Gary was in his 20s and his wife, who he's still married to today, was in her 20s as well. The guy pulled up at the front of their house, big stretch limousine driver, walked up to their front door, knocked on the door and said to his wife, called her Mrs. I won't say his last name, but Mrs. And she was a 20-year-old. He was a 50-year-old, the global head of Heinz. And they played golf, had a great day, I think came to an agreement on a deal. But you know what he said to me? He said he was so impressed and so taken aback that this head of Heinz called his wife, who was 20 odd years old, Mrs. whatever. He said that said a lot to me about the man's character. Okay, and I said, Gary, when's enough money that you just don't, think about it anymore? He said, Matt, once you have food, shelter, and clothes, and you can live comfortably, like as in just get by every day, you don't need any one of those three things. He said the rest is just play money. And it really made me think about it. It's like, yeah, true. He said, what more do you need? Like, this is a guy who can buy anything. He said, what more do you need than that, really? He said, the rest is just play money. He goes, I love playing. Oh, that was pretty cool. Two more things. It was funny that I did a video on the Ute today. He was partnering up with somebody in America, and he sent one of his employees over to America to find the right banker partnership over there. So they went over and were connecting with all these people along the way, and he met this banker that had a Ford Bronco. And all the other bankers had latest cars, Mercedeses, and Gary said, we like doing business with people that we like. That's their general rule in business. Unless they like them, they won't do business with them. And the employee who had been with him his entire career went over and saw this guy drove a Bronco and didn't drive one of these flash latest cars. He thought that was interesting. So he was talking to him, and then the guy said to him, why don't you come to my house this afternoon, obviously in an American accent, why don't you come to my house tonight for a barbecue and I'll put on a steak for you. And the guy instantly thought, this guy's different. And Gary ended up, or the employee said to Gary, you'll like this guy. He's different and he's genuine. He's like us. That was about 30 or 40 years ago. Today that guy is 77 and still in partnership with Gary. And Gary said he rang him the other day and said he wants to live the rest of his life in partnership with Gary because it's been such a successful partnership. Really interesting stuff. That guy was just genuine, was himself, and ended up probably the best partnership he could ever imagine in life. Didn't try and be somebody else. It led to that. I'm going to leave you with a story. There's lots of other things I can tell you about Gary. The wealthiest guy in Hong Kong, he started on the streets making plastic flowers. And he's 80 years old today. You can look him up. He made plastic flowers, selling them on the streets. He is today, like I said, the wealthiest guy in Hong Kong, but also the largest landholder in Hong Kong. He was interviewed recently and they said, what's the key to great business success and great wealth? And the guy said these four things. Gary told me this. The guy said these four things. Be nice, work hard, tell the truth, and keep your promises. And the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy said, unless you have all those four things, you will not be as successful as you could be. And I really like that. So when we were leaving the meeting today, I walked Gary out of the office, talked to him on the stairs for a little bit, and he said, "Oh, Matt, would you mind, could I please just go and say goodbye to Kim again? Because I didn't thank her for her hospitality and the water that she gave me." So he made his way back up, said, Kim's our receptionist, and he stuck his head in the door, said, "Kim, I want to thank you for your hospitality and the water that you gave me. I really appreciate it and look forward to seeing you next time," and left. Now, there's something in all that. Sometimes we search for this big thing for success. How do we be successful? Who can we walk over? What can we do? How do we get there as fast as we can? I think we need to learn from these types of people. There is no quick fix for success. It is about being nice. It is about being yourself. And I think touching people along the way in a way that they find memorable will start a great relationship, but also later you never know where it leads to. And people like Gary, we need to really look closely at, because they're hugely successful. You wouldn't know if Gary had $100 in the bank or 100 million. He is just the nicest guy you could meet, and so conscious of other people, because he knows other people is the reason that he's become so successful. See you later.